Hey everyone. Today I'm going to continue my story, specifically all the setbacks that I had during the taper and all the avenues I went to get help. I know those testimonials, like it's part three now, and every one of them is 1 hour. I'll probably make another one that is shorter, but I do want to cover everything. It's more for me than anyone, but I want to get it off my chest and just tell my story. I write everything down before I record this so that I'll be try to be as consistent, with everything and giving everything exactly as it was. I'm researching before I write it, and yeah, and so again, a disclaimer that everything that I say is backed up by proof. Most of what I talk about is my opinion and the way I personally see things and how I experience them. And I do believe that most people and organizations that harmed me were not malicious, but I do think that they should have been better in many cases. And I will use full names of groups, government organizations, and certain individuals, not all, where I believe the public interest calls for it. So if it doesn't, if it's just something personal, if someone gave me advice, and I'll never ever expose it. That's something that's between me and that other person, and also like other people that are benzo harmed and held my hand, even if something that they said was not true or not good, or caused me harm. Again, this is between me and them, and yeah, I don't hold any bad feelings for them. I knew some people that were very harmed and helped me, and sometimes some of them harmed me, but that's a personal thing. What I am here to do is expose people that should know better. And we're talking about people that claim that they're that they know everything, and censor everyone else, and basically like run admin, like they're admins in some groups. I'm talking about group like not group but government organizations, and and certain doctors and things of that sort. Okay, so I will, like I said, sometimes the SM entity that caused harm also helped me, and I will mention this. I'm also here to praise those that actually came forward and helped. So let's go back. In the middle of March into 2023, uh, I was basically scoring the internet for everything and anything. I joined a Facebook group called Beating Benzos. I've made a video about it, and an online forum called Benzo Buddies. And I think it was in the middle of March. And I already talked about like I said, I already talked about Beating Benzos, but I will add more things here. Um, on the 30th of March, before I drove back home to the Gold Coast from my sister, as I was feeling better, and she basically told me to go home, um, I was still pretty bad. So it did make it scary for me. But just before I drove, I went to an appointment set up for me in a few days before with the acute care team in the valley, in Fortitude Valley in Brisbane. And I came with my Excel sheet and information about the action manual. So I already made the Excel sheet. I'll talk about the tapered plan that I got from David later, but I had my own Excel sheet already. Like with I already was working on that. It was my private Excel sheet back then. I didn't share it with anyone yet. Um, and the action manual, and basically explained it to me to a panel of people and a psychiatrist. Now, the valley in Brisbane is sort of like a grungy and dodgy place. So it attracts homeless and drug people and all of that. And I don't really like it, to be honest. There is a Chinatown there that I like, but yeah, other than that, it's kind of like a dodgy area, the way I see it. A lot of people like it, I don't. Um, yeah, so when I was there, I was sitting in the reception area, and it was nice, but very, very quiet and quite dark. And I saw a lot of like some people sitting inside that looked like they were wiped out, or homeless, or something like that. And it's not a place you expect yourself to be. So remember, I never actually drank alcohol never smoked, never took any drug that was illegal, or always considered myself very, very careful not to even consider this lifestyle. And I knew better. And the sad thing, and that's the thing, that it was like completely accidental. I didn't understand what was going on and why I'm there, like, and it's a nightmare. Basically, it's just a nightmare where the doctors don't know anything how to help you, but there are many services and routines that take people out of other substances. So I actually felt, I know it's silly, but I knew about methadone for, like, for some drugs, and how they use Valium to actually help alcoholics not to suffer during acute withdrawal, and I knew about the services like NA and AA. So I crave a connection with people in my situation. I wanted something like AA or NA for people like on benzos and things like that, but couldn't find any service that actually offered physical peer groups and recovery for people like me. And I already learned from the group, luckily, that despite being offered in what I already know to be extremely harmful, uh, you know, in hospitals and rehab centers, they offer you like to come there and just be there and stay there for a month, and they'll detox you. And you can't do that. And I already knew that. And I knew that people were harmed by it. And in fact, a few months later, I actually reconsidered. I thought I'll actually go there because the Brisbane hospital offered that, and they it so casually said like, yeah, you could come for a month, and you'd have to wait a few months, but yeah, and we'll help you, and in a month you'll be okay, or I think even 2 weeks. I don't remember what they said. Uh, but I was reminded through the groups and everything that it's not the way to go. I met a lot of people that were harmed through this process, very, very harmed, and so luckily I didn't do it. I ended up sitting there like in the meeting with a young doctor, only her, and I assumed she was a psychiatrist, but she seemed very, very young, like early 20s, so she might have been a psychiatry student. She was definitely a doctor because she prescribed me, but I was surprised that there was no one else there. I thought I'm going to see a panel. That's what they said. But she just said, "Oh yeah, they read your stuff. They didn't even meet me. They just like, yeah, gave her some advice and all of that." And I don't remember the conversation, but I just remember I probably just told her like how bad I feel, like, and how I can't find any help, and I showed her what I have, and she said, like, at the end, she gave me a prescription for another 100 2 milligram pills, and said that should be enough for me to taper, and of course it wasn't, but at least it was something. So from there, I drove back straight home. That was quite scary. I had my sister and my mom on the phone sometimes, and things like that. But I got to the Gold Coast, and when I got to the Gold Coast, I actually felt, oh my God, I'm home in my house. And then I started to. I was scared of the first night to sleep there, but then I got better and better, and I was stabilizing on those doses throughout April, and I was still confused about my life, and it was pretty boring and lonely, and I was scared about what I'm going to actually, how I'm going to support myself, what's going to happen with the refined. I was still waiting and waiting and waiting, uh, you know, basically just try to figure out every day what's going to happen. I was going to the gym a lot. I was, going to the beach. But I was mostly bored in my life because I was too scared to drive or fly anywhere domestically, let alone like internationally. Like I didn't want to leave basically the Gold Coast slash Brisbane area. Um, and yeah, and I was just stuck. And even until today, I still haven't done like any flight or since basically the pandemic, I didn't do any flight or drove too far away from where I live. So yeah, and I have dreams about it every night. Basically, every night I have a dream. So for some reason, I need to go to Berlin. I don't know why. Don't know why Germany, but basically Germany or the U.S. And live in my house, and the usual, like the hotel room, and the hotel room is like why there's so many things I need to pack. The whole like anxiety dream about flying. But yeah. Anyway, I was doing a free CBT online course with Teledoc. The Teledoc recommended, so it's separate, but they recommended me. So you get that I started before actually, and you get a free chat, every 2 weeks or 1 week with a therapist about the course. But it was literally like the course itself was like a presentation that takes half an hour to do, and the therapist didn't really have any help points for my situation. She listened to me, but she was like, they don't actually give you practical advice, and it's still nice that someone listens, of course. And the lessons were very short, and like for half an hour, in half an hour I can finish the whole thing and do the exercise, and then they won't let you proceed for another 1 week or 2 weeks until for some reason they said because you need to think about an exercise, but maybe that's helpful for people that are like don't need it, acutely, like but yeah, that wasn't my case. In fact, most psychologists that I've seen through this were not really helpful, unfortunately. Like, the grand scheme of things, they were useless. Other than listening to me, which of course it's important, but they gave me advice that was, mostly uh, just do the breathing exercises and all sorts of things like that, and but not something like a workout kind of thing. So basically, I got my taper plan. So we'll go a bit back. I got my taper plan from David Jones from Beating Benzos at the end of March. So the middle of March, like I think the 25th of March it was, and I already had the Gemini 20 jeweler scale that I bought on 21st of March. I was reading through the whole all the guides that they had and everything, and yeah, it was learned a lot, but also like how to do the hyperbolic taper and everything basically. But he gave me basically the first 5 steps, and it was really confusing. And I'm going to show on the screen now what he gave me. It was really, really hard for me to understand. I didn't understand what he was doing. There was a misunderstanding, I guess, because he thought that I take 2 pills of 1 milligram when I really was taking one pill of 2 milligrams. That's why it's really important when you help someone to. I don't think I actually told him. He actually assumed how much the weight of the pill originally was. I think he said 170, and he said that he assumes that the pill weight changes with the potency, like the amount of active ingredient in the pill, but that's not true in Australia. Like it's the same weight for zero point 0.5 and 2 milligrams, and that's what you get. That's the only options. So yeah, so he basically, uh, I told him like this is doesn't make sense, and then he's like, oh okay, and he gave me another plan, which this time again only had like 8 steps, and I assume it's like a 10% reduction from the previous dose every 2 to 4 weeks. He said, and I thought it was really slow. So he said that was for me to stay functional, which is fair enough. I personally didn't understand back then that how bad it's going to be. And I thought because I took it for a short time, I'll be okay if I go faster, but we'll get to that. Uh, so I also didn't want to, and that's going back to the Excel sheet. I didn't want I didn't want him to be bothered. I didn't want to like I was already writing to him quite a lot, writing a lot and a lot, like getting like, and he's doing it for free, and I didn't want to bother him, and I wanted to understand what I'm doing myself. And I'm a programmer. I have a really good brain for those kind of things, for mathematics and stuff. I have a degree in computer science and mathematics. So I just created an Excel sheet, or I created a Google Sheets thing for myself. That was for myself originally. And yeah, and I want to mention that at least one UK official government website said that I can really go fast if I only took it for such a short time. They actually have if you took it for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or stuff like that. And yeah, that's bullshit. Uh, yeah. Anyway, I already had, by the way, like it was hard for me to do the Excel sheet because I was so stressed and and anxious, and I already had some cognitive impairment a little bit, I think. So it wasn't easy for me to do it. It took me a while to sort of like dust my brain and be able to go back to my mathematic background and enjoy it. It's not that hard, but if you have a clear mind, it's actually very very easy, even for someone who didn't do a degree in mathematics. It's just 10% of the previous dose. Just it's very easy. I decided to do what I decided to do though is like a 1% dry microtaper, so every like daily. So basically, I reduced 1% of my previous daily dose every day, and I started, and I was doing really well. And I also was researching YouTube and Reddit and Benzodiazepines forums again, basically all day. Was just looking for things, and I would test a lot of YouTube relaxation music tracks to see if they can help me with sleeping. And I was really, really scared and traumatized by insomnia and terror night terrors that I had before. So I knew that this can't repeat. That's what I want to make sure. But I figured since now I'm tapering in the small steps, that I will be okay. And my family even told me that I was CD about it all and like keep researching. It's bad for me to dwell on it, but in reality, those things saved me. Like that research saved me. If I didn't do that research, I don't know what would have happened, but it wouldn't be good. So um, yeah, I was also going to the gym every day, like I said, and working out for at least 1 hour. And I found some tracks that puts me into REM sleep, and it worked really well for me. And I had vivid dreams where I visited Israel and spent time in some gay venues that I haven't been for a very long time. Not that I liked it in Israel, but in the dream it's like it's all my cravings. I craved company, and I had company there, and I wasn't alone and lonely, and I was not stuck in my house, and I was talking to a lot of people, and I didn't want those dreams to end. I would literally stay in bed and have like toxic 1 hour of just trying to go back to sleep and not be able to, and just bad thoughts and everything. So again, I was still working with 2 milligram pills. That's all I had instead of the 0.5 milligram pills, and the scale was giving me a lot of anxiety because I will calculate my dose and shave the pill on it, and then once you put it in, and if you just leave it, it starts climbing, and if like after 10 minutes, it's like 20 milligrams higher. So you always have to like tar it and like start it and calibrate it. It's really stressful when you're like so OCD about how much you're taking. Um, and so I decided to start a milk taper instead. Like I saw a video on YouTube on someone doing it and explaining that the fact that the milk helps to keep the melted pill sort of equally dispersed in the liquid. So so more of like a suspension, kind of like so better than water where it's all basically just it's not really soluble in water, so it just goes to the ground, and to the ground, to the bottom of whatever you're using. And I concluded, so I could, but I couldn't know. Basically, it was white on white. I didn't see what was happening. So basically, I continued exactly as I would with a dry taper, and I was doing 1% of the previous daily dose, and I was working well. It was working well for 3 weeks. I didn't even understand back then that when David gives a water taper, he's just doing it linearly, but we'll get to that. So I just can continue to do like hyperbolically, like you should do. Um, at some point, I updosed the paroxetine to 30 milligrams. That's I was seeing it in my records, but I don't remember when. And I also strained a muscle uh, in my workout because I'm working out so much. And then uh, one day I was so stressed with ANZ, they were being so bad and like not getting like any hope from like real hope from them or from like my mortgage broker. She was also fighting with them like to get it through, and it was torturing me. And on the 8th of May, they called me and asked me questions about, I think it's like something about if the house is tenanted or not. Something I answered like 10 times before. I don't know if 10 times, but I answered quite a few times before. One of the houses, or something like that, where I live, also the things that I already answered, and it drove me nuts. That it broke me. So those like those days between the 8th of I already like started to find that I can't sleep very well, and I continued the taper, and I was like sleeping for only 6 hours, and basically the whole thing caused me like to also have side effects now. I had chest anxiety, so basically just a pressure in my chest all the time, lump in my throat, like I'm about to cry, pins and needles that were driving me nuts, like, and it's like like electricity running through my limbs, and then the dreaded and insomnia came back. So, and then on 2 days after the waking night terrors, what I talked about before, came back. And once again, I woke up not knowing who or where I am. I had like really like with a lot of terror, and again the movies and the hypnot jerks and everything, and and so I was holding. I stopped, and I sent an SOS email to David, explained the situation, and he told me to hold the taper, and he gave me some advice on the wet taper that I couldn't actually understand. I didn't understand what he was talking about, because I was doing a hyperbolic taper, but he's basically told me to take 1 milligram of the 300 milligrams every day, which is basically a linear taper. And I was like, it goes against everything that they write in their own guides. So it was actually like, as I read this and like in the correspondence with him, I just didn't understand. And then today I understand that he basically told me to do the linear microtaper. I didn't understand it back then. By the way, so just to mention, I saw a lot of videos about water and milk taper and all of that on YouTube, and they also like when they even when they actually found like spreadsheet, it was linear. It was so stupid and not not correct, and they just do like a linear. And I actually asked one of the guys that did the milk, and I told him why are you doing it like he started with 150 mil and just took 1 mil every day until it stopped. And it's like you said, oh, I didn't have any side effects. So some people just don't have side effects from, and I suspect that they could have done it like much faster and, without having any problems. I also did like at the end of my taper, not have like real problems, but, everyone's different. And I was going very fast at the end. I'd still do it hyperbolically, but I was going faster and faster and faster. So in reality, I was upping the doses, like upping the reductions quite rapidly. But again, I had like things that basically stabilized me every time I did it. Okay, so I was out already 33% off, and when I basically like when I had that happening, I wanted to up those to back to 25% because maybe I mean 33% in 5 weeks is very fast. So I thought, to see if I go up those to 25%, see if it helps. But then I read in the group that this can come and bite you in the ass, and it can be really, really dangerous. So you don't always stabilize. It's sometimes like, really bad. But I read it mostly about people that are doing like every month, like a 10% reduction. So if you wait like, a month and then you up those, that might be a problem. I think that from what I read in the guide, like in the Mark Horowitz guide, that can happen also. But I'm taking everything with with caution that I read there. That that most if you do it immediately, it doesn't hurt. But back then I thought it would, so I immediately went back to 32% off. So I actually created a problem because I didn't just hold like up those for one day and then cut it. A lot of people do it. People that I talk with now, just out of like sheer terror and being scared, not knowing what to do. That's just what you do. So, and to make matter worse, I was starting to get paranoid about the milk taper because the milk, like I said, the pill is white, the milk is white. I didn't actually know if I'm doing it correctly when I draw the milk out with the syringe. So the way I was doing it, I was spinning with a teaspoon like you're doing tea, and then taking like drawing from the middle more or less, or like from everywhere, with the syringe. And so on the 15th of May, I tried to do the same thing just with water, and I was horrified. I saw how the pill was breaking down to actually uneven bits. So some were like tiny, 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 and some were like bigger. And spinning the water with the teaspoon just made the concentration more in the middle where I was drawing. So I basically was drawing maybe too much every time. So I decided to go back to milk for the night, and I didn't make it in advance, and I wanted to get it to happen quickly. So I put it in the microwave and I warmed it, and that can actually, now I know that can ruin the the active ingredient when you do that. So I might have basically cold turkeyed myself. And so from that day, I started the dry taper again, and I realized that even with the scale being a bit hard, like because it goes up and down, it was still more accurate than trying to do like to shake a bottle or of water and just immediately like draw or like do the milk thing and not know what you're actually seeing doing because you can't see. And I was acutely aware that I'm still don't have a reliable supplier of clonazepam. I had like one bottle of 100 and some more from before, but I didn't have more than that. So I didn't want to basically waste it doing a wet taper because you have to basically when you draw the water, the recommendation is to, especially with milk, just throw it out. Don't use it the next day. It just makes it more complicated if you do that. And I didn't want to do it. When you cut, you have some crumbs or powder that you save. So in the next couple of days, I barely slept. I slept very badly, but I think that night terrors and weird half dreams and delusions went away. I would beg for the sun to come up because I couldn't sleep, and then I would just sit in my outdoor sofa all day like a zombie, waiting for the minutes to pass, and doing even more research, or more and more research. And I found a video. One of those things happened that I found a video that promotes all sorts of. I actually found a lot of other supplements, and I actually bought theanine. Uh, Apparently, I looked back on the Amazon and I saw now that I actually bought it and then I returned it or I canceled it. I think probably because I was scared by by the group. And actually yesterday I did some research and I saw that Rosalind actually asked about this for herself. I think in 2007, 16 or 17, and a lot of people said, "Oh, it was really it helped them." Some people said it, didn't help them. Some people said it didn't do well for them. She bought it. From the subtext, I understand that it worked for her. And then she, like a year later, she made like a whole supplement list and she included that in it as the what not to take, even though people told her a year before that it's actually good. So probably I assumed that I was influenced by that. And also maybe like bad things from like anything you look for, you'll find something that someone had and made it worse. So I found but in any case, I found that video that promotes all sorts of supplements that I never heard of before, and by a young man that I never heard about before either. Um, and he seemed to have done his research. I mean, he looked like he knows what he's talking about, and he brought like studies and all of that. And I've also found another product, Relora, that's supposed to help with cortisol spikes, as well as other ones like there's also other things that I saw that Dr. Cain happy sleepy powder that people talk about that just promotes certain amino acids for benzo help. And again, like every time I would research those things, yeah, I would find something that scared the shit out of me, and so I was scared to take them. So yeah, basically, about I'll talk about it again in the video about Beating Benzo, but I should put some context. Again, many times I would naively ask about a supplement that might help, like in the groups. And in the groups, I mean, like I didn't know about the other ones. Now I know that there's lots, but back then I basically just was in Beating Benzo, and also like maybe I think I asked also in the forums in the benzo buddies, but I didn't get much help there. Like maybe it's already like a little bit dead there. Um, and basically, you know, one time she actually cursed and deleted, and like was really angry with me for asking, and then she just deleted her angry comment. And you know, and then I found out that she unfriended me on Facebook. So we were friends on Facebook. I was, very much, very, thinking like she's a great lady, she could help me, and I had a lot of empathy, and yeah, then she just deleted me because because I said something or asked something. Um, yeah, basically, but I did sort of said I need to be brave, and I bought Relora. I think she actually told me that she had a horrible setback from Relora specifically. But she did say that she had, like, in the video, that in the comment I found here, that it attaches to the GABA A receptor. Everything attaches to the GABA A receptor. There's like this uh, notion that anything that attaches to it, including magnesium, apparently, it can cause your brain not to heal. I've never seen any study or something that that didn't bring any proof. It was just like a rumor running around. Um, and I did feel that any comment that she made, that and that cursed list of what not to take during taper, uh, it was just scary for me. It was just really scary for me, and basically, yeah, just fear. Now, because I'm taking a few days, clomipene takes a few days to change, to have an impact if you change it. So when you cut, it actually takes a few days until you actually feel that cut, and because of the weight, because of the half life, it can be between 20 and 60 hours. So potentially, like, you won't even have it out of your body, like, in a week, if you like whatever dose you took. So um, I believe that I started to get worse again during the 19th and the 20th of May. After a few days, I've basically cold turkey myself with the hot milk in the microwave and all, like, the up and down, and I couldn't sleep again, and I was really, really stressed. And now, basically on the 21st, it was my mom's birthday, the 31st of May, and I asked them to come to the Gold Coast to celebrate in a fancy Persian restaurant I always wanted to go to, but I was so bad. And then we could basically, maybe after that, I told them we could go to the beach. And stupidly, I basically barely slept the night before. I did basically body scan meditation, hoping that it would help me with the anxiety at least. And I registered with a mindfulness course, like a free one, online, and the first time I did it, the body scan, it was a torture because it's too long, and then after like 40 minutes, you basically wake up like a zombie if you didn't sleep. So extremely tired and fatigued, but just like physically in pain. And body scan and yoga nidra and DSR, which is non-sleep deep relaxation, something that Andrew Huberman promotes, are basically the same. It's also like the main exercise in Vipassana meditation. By the way, my experience with Vipassana is an interesting story, and I'm going to put it in another video. But it also has to do with how certain people just become like, are so not thinking for themselves, so they do the Vipassana and they just become like this cult, thinking in like this cult way. But we'll talk about it in another video. So it was very important for me, like I said, to not be anxious for my mom's birthday. And like I said, it backfired. I actually became worse. So my parents came to pick me up and to the venue, and it was also with my sister, was with my nephews, and I think my little sister in another car, and I was really, really bad, and I could barely stand straight. And the food was amazing, but it was so hot outside, and I was basically putting my face on the table and most of the time, and basically being tortured by even being out and about, and no one understood what was going on. Like, it was very difficult for my parents. And after the restaurant, we went to the Spit side of the Broadwater, and it's basically a big bay with an exit to the ocean on the Gold Coast. And I was just lying there on the grass with my hand on my head on my mom's thigh, and literally counting the minutes, like every minute until the sun sets. And I'll explain later why that is. But basically, I was like, uh, I forgot to mention, but basically during all of this, I developed a very strict sleeping pattern where I would try to meditate and relax from around 8 p.m. until trying to go to sleep around 10 to 11 p.m. And that was unfortunate in a way, because the minute the sun would set, that's what I was said before, when the sun sets, I was in a window suddenly. Suddenly, a window is when you basically are not in your not feeling the side effects so much, and I felt better, and I was feeling much more normal when that happened, and it would actually make me wake me up. It's as if like I did sleep the night before. I was okay, and very weird. So basically, I would just suffer all day for 2 hours, and then for 2 hours max, I have a window in the evening, and then I have to sleep as much as I could. And it became harder because suddenly I was alert and awake. So all the grogginess from before was gone. Um, and that day was no different. I actually came home. They dropped me home, and an hour after, I was suddenly okay. But I also had L-Theanine ready because I was really scared. I was already like I didn't sleep for 2 nights, and I was scared that the side effects would happen again. And and that's another, like I said, it's demonized in the she demonized it in the beating benzo group. So I was scared to take it, and so when I was dropped home, and I waited and I took it, suddenly I took like 300 milligrams, and within literally minutes, I was normal. I was completely normal. I was great. I was feeling really good, awake. You know, I could watch. And the first thing I did, uh, I watched a show. I watched a TV show because I couldn't watch anything when I was in this, nothing. And I really, really was wanted to see Sweet Tooth, um, and I couldn't because it's full of like drama and violence and stuff like that, and like it's apocalyptic show, and for me even the slightest drama like in a comedy would make me super anxious. So yeah, so and I could watch it, but then I watched one episode and then watched another one, and then it became hard again. And suddenly, and then I found out later that L-theanine has a short half life of like 3 hours, which is why maybe after 2 hours I was like already starting to feel a little bit anxious again, and then 2 hours after that I was already in the same case, as before. And then at 10 p.m. I asked my family to basically pray for me to that I'll sleep probably that night, but it didn't happen, and I had the side effects again. And we'll talk about it. What I did and what happened the next day. I drove to my sister, and I begged them to buy me the Agmatine that guy talked about in the video, and yeah, and this is not written anymore, but I will talk about it a little bit. I had exactly the same side effects as before. I woke up in a terror, and then when I tried to go, every time I was in my bed, and every time I looked at my CPAP cord and stuff like that, I had a delusion that I did something horrible with my nephew. Like he was like I don't remember, but he was like we were like a royal family from England or something, and I did something bad, and all those there's like jewels and all this stuff for him, like he's like a prince in England or something like that. And I knew it's delusions. I knew that it's like not real, but I had to open my eyes every time to get out of the delusion. Every time I closed them, or every time I got very tired, it started again. And the next morning, I basically just, five. My sister wakes up at 5 in the morning every day, and I told her what's happening, and she said she's going to Julie. Julie is like a Reiki practitioner and like a very like basically her therapist in a way of my family. Um, and she went to her, and she said she'll call me. And I was basically walking like a tiger in a cage. I was really really stressed. I was extremely. I'm really 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 scared. I couldn't handle this. And um, she said, get yourself to your sister. Um, and I knew that my sister would have problems with me being there. And I started literally just yelling and crying on the grass, and probably my tenants heard me, and all of that. But and she told me to go on the grass, or like ground myself, something that I actually still use today, grounding. but she told me to just feel like basically be barefoot on the ground. And she said, "Guy, you can't do this alone. You have to help." And but who? And but I did. So I basically packed myself again and drove to my sister. But before that happened, I begged them. So maybe at around 11 or 12, I drove. And before that, I told my little sister to find Agmatine. I already had Relora. I said I'm going to try it today because it stops the cortisol, which probably is what's causing like the spikes in adrenaline, is what's causing my those night terrors. And she basically um, by the way, David, when I told David about it, I sent him an SOS about this. He said he has no idea why this is happening to me, and he never heard about it before. And funnily, like when you go to the group, you actually, I mentioned this. I mentioned a few times, and people told me yes, it happened to me as well. So it's not out of the blue. But he didn't know what to say or what to do. I called every health store in Brisbane until we found one like in a faraway suburb that actually had Agmatine. Apparently, it wasn't easy to find it. It's like it's basically a metabolite of arginine, and it's helpful for people that are doing like bodybuilding. It's or just going to the gym. It helps the gym session becomes a bit more. You get, they call it, have more pump in the muscles to do more repeats and stuff like that. It's a healthy thing. And then I drove there, and after they found it, I was like, thank God. And I drove there, and when I got to my sister, my little sister, like, so when I say my sister, I mean like my older sister. Uh, she was there, and my little sister was there too. And they showed me that, so I'll just relax. And I took a little bit, and I felt when I took it, I felt basically just like phased out. But I was more relaxed. It relaxed me, but I was like feeling again like after the acupuncture, a little bit like spaced out. Like when I say spaced out, literally feeling like my aura, my body, the feeling of the body is like covering a big area, kind of out of it a little bit. I stayed there. I made the room ready again. I felt safe again. Um, and at night, I took the Agmatine and went to sleep. And I still I try to go a bit earlier, like about 8. Um, and when everyone's still awake, and I still start. Well, I closed my eyes and started to have you know, the movies start again. So I was like, oh no. And then I took the Relora and waited an hour, and then went to sleep and fell asleep. And I woke up at 4, I think, again, like with, couldn't sleep or anything, but I was okay. That stopped for that, and I stayed at my sister for another week, and I was fine. All right, I think that's it. Next part would be hopefully covering the rest of my taper. It's no, it will be more about Peter Smith and his and the shenanigans and everything that I took, and the Excel sheet and what happened. Um, yeah, I'll do that, I guess. I'll probably make also a very short video, just gives you a power like points of what happened to me for people that don't want to just listen to me talking for like so long. I know that some people would find it very interesting, but I think that but I know that a lot of people that are benzo harmed just can't even like see anything for more than 5 minutes. But again, this video is more for like anyone else, I guess, and also maybe for people that just want to see what happened to someone else that was on benzo, and maybe help them. And maybe if you can't watch it, then let your loved one watch it. When I was at my parents' place, actually, at the beginning, I actually found like the Ashton, like she had like a video about the Ashton, like a whole documentary where she talks about what happens to people on benzo, and I couldn't watch it. It was very triggering for and even my parents, they watched it and they said, "Don't watch it, don't watch it. You'll be like in hysteria from it." So remember, what happened to me might not happen to you, uh, and I hope that, of course, like I said, I have the video about the supplements. I know that it helps. It still helped me. Last night I couldn't sleep until 6 a.m. I took some extra of the CBD and oil with the CBN, and I took some a little bit of melatonin, and I slept. And I slept until like we slept. I slept 7 hours. I got up, and this whole day I wasn't tired at all. So there are solutions, and now I have the solutions. So I hope it could help someone else. Guys, thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for all the comments as well. Thank you for anyone that supports me, and I do hope that people share this with other people. People share not this video maybe specifically, but the other videos about the tapering and the spreadsheet and the and everything else, because it's so important. I'm not going to go into details right now, but ever since I did the Beating Benzos video, there was so much drama, like very low level schoolyard politics drama about like people that are admins like Barbara Bell. She's a mod in two groups, so she blocked me in another group, and that group, when she blocked me, that admin, the admin there is also an admin in a different group that was born because they are against another group, and that group also blocked. It's insane. It's just absolutely insane. I don't care because I'm like, I have other users, other like fake profiles that are in all of those groups, and if I see someone who suffers, I just talk to them. I just talk to them, and I tell some of them, like it's funny actually. I had like one person that said that was really really appreciative that I talked to her, that I reached out, and hopefully I helped her. And someone else was very rude and just said never message me again and blocked me. And that's okay. Like I said, I never judge benzo people. I did write to her though that she's very very rude in another, because I was just offering help, but I understand. And if she still wants to, here are the links again, and if she do decide to talk to me, she's welcome to. So you do what you can. All right. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. And have a very good day, or have a very good night wherever you are. See ya.